Greetings and grand risings, beautiful people. This is my first time ever going live on TikTok, so bear with me here. I don't know if I need to wait for people to come in or if this will actually record and go to my TikTok. So, I'm going to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Lucius Kai, and I am an alchemist. I'm a quantum etheric alchemist. I'm a shamanic healer. I'm a business owner. I own and operate a small construction business. I'm also a single father. And, yeah. So again, this is my first time ever going live on TikTok, but a lot of my work I get a lot of good response from, so I'm going to, and Spirit has compelled me to start bringing it to the public, what I do, and sharing some of what I do, because people are beginning to become more and more aware of the spiritual world, and I am in the spirit realm. I'm loved and I'm hated. So if you engage in the spirit realm at all, then you might comprehend why that is once you get to know me. so I do not work as a dark hat. I never work in dark forms or dark practices, just so you know that. So if you're coming here for quick and easy manifestation, or if you're coming here for ways to energetically manipulate other people's lives or things like that, you're not going to find what you want here. On the contrary, what I do is all about shielding people from that. I do healing work, energetic healing work, and I do quantum etheric work, which is work on the collective. And I work with the subtle currents of consciousness to heal the collective consciousness. For example, when the collective goes through a massive experience like 9/11 or COVID or a collectively traumatic experience, there's a lot of energetic architecture that becomes distorted. And if you know anything about the consciousness grid, there are ley lines on planet Earth that are like rivers of consciousness. Now, consciousness is all over the planet, and it is flowing in and out of all things. But there are amplified currents of consciousness that flow through Earth's ley lines, and I guess I'll go ahead and begin by explaining the architecture of that, because once you comprehend how consciousness flows through this world, then you have a great comprehension of how to tap into that consciousness, how to do practices like channeling, how to use consciousness in your alchemical work. Again, I do not work in dark practices. However, this knowledge can be wielded for the wrong reasons. But I really ask you to refrain from going that route, because I promise you that if you engage in dark practices or dark practitioner work, especially with no knowledge, you're going to experience some very dark repercussions. And those repercussions can be very serious. So in my journey, I have seen some of the worst things occur from, black magic, Santeria. And yes, a lot of those things go on. Santeria is very real, and dark magic is very real. And these things are happening to everyday people. And there are practitioners out there who offer those that kind of work. But even if you are a recipient of one of those practitioners' works, those practitioners know that there will be energetic repercussions for that work, but they know how to throw all of those repercussions at you. So if you go to a practitioner and you request work from them, and you want to manifest money or you want to hurt someone, you're going to receive the repercussions of that. And I promise you that. And it's not about God, okay? It's about the laws of the universe. It's very simple. If you stick around and you spend some time with me, you'll learn those laws of the universe. Yes, they can prosper your life, but there is no quick and easy way to wholeness, to wealth and prosperity. There are illusions of quick and easy ways to prosperity and wealth, because once you take that route, you're going to be silenced, and you're going to be sacrificing majorly in your life in order to receive those kinds of gifts and that kind of manifestation in your life. It just is what it is. And so let's talk about the architecture of the consciousness grid. And there's many perspectives to look at the consciousness grid from. There's many angles to view it from. But consciousness that is flowing through your body is flowing through all things around you. Everything is fundamentally consciousness energy. All matter, everything you see is manifested fundamentally from the same energy. And in science, that's what we call quantum energy. Okay? So if you study quantum mechanics, you can get a really good fundamental structure of how the spirit realm works, right? You're not going to get all of the metaphysics, but it can really give you a good foundation for how to engage in quantum etheric alchemy. And so consciousness is flowing from the stars, okay, to Earth realm, and it is flowing to the black hole sun, and it is flowing through it's flowing to the black hole sun and being projected into this realm through the sun, through the moon, and then you have your trees, you have your plants, you have your animal kingdom, you have all these different expressions of consciousness. Trees, much like your hair, are antenna for that consciousness to flow to you. And while they are antenna, they are also consciousness itself. So when I wrote a paper on what's called the axiom of singularity, and it is unique to my work. So if you really want to comprehend that, I have some stuff that I can produce for that. But the axiom of singularity is a key law of the universe to comprehend, to transcend all of the illusion of duality, and get down to the nitty-gritty of true witchcraft and true sorcery and alchemy. So consciousness is consistently and always being channeled from the stars to this realm, and it is flowing through you. You are a node of consciousness. You're a transmitter and a receiver. Humans have descended into the forgetting, so we are living a life of being caged in an identity. So we believe, I am Lucius Kai, I am so-and-so. And when we take on these energetic architectures of identity, we lock ourselves, we cage ourselves in a bubble of reality. And that is what's happening to Earth realm as a whole. It is locked in a bubble of reality. And the way that it got locked in a bubble of reality is through a synthetic consciousness grid. And that you find evidence of that in the pyramids, in obelisks, in the stone buildings and structures that we have in our capitals. So your capital buildings are all built out of limestone, granite, and marble, and you have obelisks in the capitals of almost every city. If you zoom out and you look at the earth from above and you look down onto the earth, cities and the nomenclature of society is oriented much like a microchip. Okay, and that's not an accident. That is because consciousness itself is being monopolized. So they consolidate all of these humans into cities and things of that nature to consolidate consciousness. You again are a node of consciousness. And so they consolidate consciousness into these cities and into the grid. And then they plant obelisks and granite, limestone, and marble structures in these cities to amplify and harvest that consciousness. There are 144,000 cemeteries in the United States of America. Okay? So in these cemeteries, what you're going to find is limestone, granite, and marble headstones. And oftentimes you'll find obelisks. Okay? The reason why they build our cemeteries in this way is because lower dimensional beings, all right, and we'll get into that. We'll go into that next, because there's a lot of misunderstanding about. There's a lot of ideas about reptilians and there's a lot of ideas about it, but I'm going to tell you my perspective, okay, of almost a decade of true energetic warfare. So, and you can take my perspective or leave it, whatever you want to do. I've been compelled to come on here and start speaking the truth, and it's just that time for humanity. But cemeteries are built that way because the energy that is produced in cemeteries are fear, sorrow, despair, death, and all of these lower, denser frequency energies. And energies that have ruled planet Earth in the time of the forgetting, in this denser frequency that humanity and Earth has been moving through, they feed on that energy, and it maintains that consciousness cage. You can also look at it as a dream bubble, right? Again, there's lots of ways to look at it, lots of perspectives to look at it from. So, and then in your city, in your central areas of your cities, you're going to find obelisks and things of that nature, and they are harvesting consciousness. And then your media, your news, all of these things are the consciousness loops. So they are using some subliminal messaging. They're using media. They're using war and fear and all of these things to loop your consciousness into these lower frequency energies, and then harvest that energy and project it onto the crystalline grid. All right, the crystalline grid is your Christed flower of life lattice. That is the canvas upon which this dream is being projected onto. You see, the importance of your consciousness is that you have dominion of this realm, and you are co-creating this realm. Everything in existence comes from consciousness. It comes from the primordial soup of creation. The primordial soup of creation is your imagination. Okay? That's why imagination is treated as child's play, because they want you to think it is cliche. They want you to think that it's not valuable, but the imagination is the doorway to the great creator. It's the doorway to the primordial soup of creation. So, or it is the primordial soup of creation. Okay, and everything that you can pull from imagination does exist in time-space. Because outside of this dream, outside of this realm, all there is the eternal moment. There is no time. Time is a construct. It's an illusion. So when you step out of this realm, you step into the eternal moment. And you have layers, dimensions of consciousness, and you have worlds within worlds and realms within realms, and it can get very complex. But to simplify it, you have dimensions of consciousness leading back to the singularity. And as the singularity expands out, you have a multitude of singularities in which are doing their own little tree of life. Okay? Now, the tree of life is not always referring to the nature of that. The tree of life is also sometimes referring to your nervous system in your body. But we can get into that another time. So divine consciousness is being channeled from higher dimensions through the stars, through portals, through frequency. And this realm is being channeled. Consciousness is being channeled into this realm through frequency. And then humans having dominion of the earth, we are the driving force of the reality that we experience. We are the co-creators of the dream. And that is expressed in everything that we do. Okay, it's reflected back to you through whenever you go to vote or you go to, just the nature that the elites have to have your consent to, and your vote and your energetic contract to manifest what they want to manifest into this world. Okay, that is a more physical reflection of the nature of that law of dominion of the earth. Okay, but again, we have what's called the false grid. The false grid is that synthetic energy grid. It is that synthetic energy grid that is being channeled through again, excuse me, let me back up here. Through the circuit board of cities, of the way that the nomenclature of society, through your limestone and granite and marble structures. Okay, now courthouses. The kind of energy that gets pooled at courthouses is the subjugation of human sovereignty. All right, you have a lot of enslavement that goes on in our justice system, and so much love, guys. I appreciate you all. I'll get into a lot of stuff. So if you enjoy what you're hearing, please stick around, because I've been compelled to disclose a lot of information. But so divine consciousness, alchemical channeling is just that. It is the channeling of divine consciousness. And all that is different frequencies. So when you have a channeler who is saying, I am, let me try to think of a channeler. I don't typically listen to a whole lot of them. No offense, because I appreciate what they do. But when they say, my name is Borat, I don't know. When they say, my name is Borat, right? And they're channeling, what they're doing is they are channeling a frequency. Now, here's a key. So stick with me on this. All energy is alive. All energy is living energy. This is a law, right? When you comprehend this, you'll comprehend demons and angels, and you'll comprehend all of this, all right? And you'll comprehend how to do inner alchemy, how to heal your body quickly. Because, and we'll get into that another time, but all energy is living energy. It's all alive. There is no thing that is dead. Death is illusory. It's a process of transmutation. Okay? Because you are not this body, you are consciousness. This body is a manifestation of your frequency signature, of your singularity's frequency signature. And this body is divine. It's not nothing, okay? It is divine, and it is a very sacred expression of your singularity of consciousness. But it is just a fragment or a fractal of your higher dimensional consciousness inside of this time bubble. But you're on many layers of consciousness, and you are being projected into many dream bubbles. And sometimes you're in many bodies in one dream bubble. But that gets complex because every singularity of consciousness has the capacity to interdimensionally travel, and travel through parallel universes too, because your heart is a bioquantum teleportation device. That's where you have the light body and the Merkaba and all of those things come into play. And I can teach you how to tap into the Merkaba. I can teach you how to quantum leap and quantum jump and shift out of certain timelines, and how to shift away from these lower dimensional frequencies, which is naturally happening with Gaia now. This is why I'm even on here speaking. All right, because this is a natural process. And there's a purge happening right now of lower dimensional frequencies, right? Lower density frequencies are beginning to be purged from this realm. Now, when you have channelers channeling specific energies and they say, I am so-and-so, they create an identity, they create a name, they give it a name, and all of this stuff. All of that is energetic architecture. So that entity is alive, and it's real. Everything you can imagine is real. But it's going to express itself in a way that you can interpret it. So a channeler is simply interpreting and alchemizing that energy into a way that can be communicated in human form. However, on its fundamental frequency, that energy may be dwelling on the 7th, 8th, or 9th dimension, and it may be a translucent water or plasma being. Okay, there's lots of ways to perceive that energy. So as an alchemist, as an alchemical channeler, because I do quantum etheric alchemy, but that requires alchemical channeling. So I have to channel living energies in order for me to engage the collective consciousness. And I've been doing this for years, guys. I go to obelisks. I go to sacred sites. I live 30 minutes away from the Serpent Mound. I go to these places and I tap in. I either astral project or I just go into a meditative state depending on the circumstances. And I do shamanic healing on you, on the collective, on your consciousness, on a very subtle level, because I am you and you are me. We are a collective. And a lot of my work recently has been about bringing remembrance of who we are, transcending the false grid, right? And anchoring the architecture of the new earth. The new earth is very real, and it is inevitably coming. So if you've heard of the new earth, right, but it's kind of out there for you, I can promise you it's already here. It's coming. So all that needs to happen now is the alchemy, the transmutation of those denser frequencies, because they no longer have dominion of the planet. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about reptilians. Let's talk about lower dimensional entities and even demonic energies. And let's talk about these things, because when you lift the veil, what you have is, Dorothy in the Emerald City lifting the curtain and finding some old man pumping a bunch of levers and smoke. All right? Don't get me wrong. There are real people who have had real experiences with these entities. But they exist because of the density of frequency that consciousness has been moving through. And you have authority over these energies because you are directly tied to source. So you have authority over those lower dimensional frequencies, unless you've given them dominion over your vessel. Even then, you can still reclaim your vessel. But they thrive on ignorance and on lower dimensional or lower density emotional energies like fear, despair, hatred, anger. All of these energies, they thrive on those things and they feed on them. And that is called loosh. All right, that's a real thing as well. And these obelisks, they are channeling that loosh right up into a portal that is feeding that dimension, that entire dimension. And I don't really want to say feeding it, because feeding is a process of transmutation in itself. There is no creating energy or destroying energy. That's all illusory. What you're doing is transmuting energy and shifting frequency. So it maintains the channel that you're listening to. This world is an electromagnetic frequency. It is a channel that we're on. It's like listening to a station on the radio or watching a certain channel on the TV. When you go to change the radio station and you find yourself in that happy zone in between two channels, and you begin to get that interference with two channels, right? That is where you find Bigfoot. That's where you find cryptids and certain cryptids. Okay, others are invocated living energies. They were ritualistically brought into this realm from sorcery in witchcraft. So again, all energy is living energy, and everything in the primordial soup exists. But I'll tell you why you don't ever want to fuck with that. Okay, I'll tell you why you don't, excuse my language, but I'll tell you why you don't ever want to mess with that. All right, you don't ever want to go invoking lower frequency energies. You are not bringing them to your world. You're bringing your entire reality to a world in which they exist in this world. Because your heart is a bioquantum teleportation device. So you're shifting yourself into that dimension. Into the dimension where they live on Earth plane. And if they, and what you seek, you shall find. So you're not just going to get that energy that you intended. You're going to get everything on its frequency. Everything. So, that's what we had in the late 20s, and in between the late 20s and the late 30s, we had a process of warlocks and sorcerers who were doing ritualistic work to invocate. They were basically lower dimensional entities who were calling on other lower dimensional entities, and at the same time getting permission or the collective's votes to bring the entire collective into that dimension. And it's all to perpetuate the Masonic dream, to keep humanity locked in this dream grid. All right, the false grid, this false dream that we've been in for 7,000 years. Okay? So, and I want to go a little bit further than that, because if you know the Yuga cycle, all right, humanity goes into a natural descension of consciousness. We go into a natural lower density state of consciousness in the Kali Yuga. Inside of that, it gets deeper and deeper and deeper, and there are many layers to consciousness inside of that. This is one of those deeper layers. This is a dream that was created inside of the Kali Yuga. All right, because Kali Yuga is the universe. It's bigger than just Earth realm. So, but inside of the Kali Yuga, we have this Masonic manifested dream. All right, so I can't tell if people are still listening or not. So I'm gonna take a drink real quick, guys. Do you guys? Oh, okay, I don't know if anybody's here, but so that is the that's what's happening, is a living process of alchemy all around you on a energetic foundation. And we are shifting out of the old dream into the new earth, and back to, I don't want to say source energy, not fully and completely, but we are in the ascension, on the ascension path to pull us out of this false grid. And if you're doing healing work on yourself or others, alchemy is a key to energetic healing on others and on yourself. So if you want to have really good comprehension of how that works, I'll do another live later today, or I'll do some more videos on inner alchemy and quantum etheric alchemy. But channeling is important in both, because you have the capacity at any time to invoke living energies. And let me just speak on this really quick. An angel is an angle. It is a perspective. It is a way of seeing, a way of being. All right? And I'll explain that to you really quick. So, you have source. All right? This is source. And source, it has expanded outward from itself from many different angles, from many different ways of being. Okay? Source, universe, right? Different dimensions and universes. And then inside of this, you have a universe. And that consciousness has expanded outwards to you. Okay? And you are looking back at source from this angle. All right? And you, as this angle, this perspective, can only see this much of the source of creation, your source, right? And over here, this angle can only see this much. So an angle is an angel. An angel is a way of seeing, a way of beingness. It is a song. It is a piece of art. It is a living energy. Okay? And higher angels are higher ways of being, higher dimensional thinking. Okay? It's closer to the remembrance of thyself. Fallen angels are you and me. We are fallen perspectives. We are fallen ways of being. Now, when we believe in these lower demonic energies, when we believe in them and we feed them fear and we feed them attention, all right? Attention is the money of the universe. When we feed them, they grow and they expand, they get bigger, and they come to life. The despair that is in you from a traumatic experience is alive. That's a living energy. If you don't heal that energy, and you continuously cultivate it and feed it, that energy can come to life, and it can become a living energy. Now, there are living energies outside of you, spirits that are lower density energies that can attach to you and begin feeding off of your light body, your aura. And they have to have a doorway in, and that's going to be another energy that is resonant to that energy, right? It's magnetized because they resonate. So, that's how that works. So when you have an opening in your aura or a resonant frequency in your energetic architecture, those lower density spirits that are out and about, manifestations, symptoms of the forgetting, right? They are symptoms of the sorrow of the land, okay? Because we are dishonoring the land right now. We're dishonoring the land by pretending that we own the land instead of the land owning us. But they are, and that despair and those symptoms of the forgetting are manifesting through humanity, through the animal kingdom, through all things, the plant kingdom. And so it becomes living energies at times, spirits. And so those spirits are wandering the earth, and they are attaching to humans and animals and everything of that nature. So all energy is living energy. That is a very important key when comprehending alchemy and healing work and shamanism and spiritual things, okay? And the reason why you see horror films and all of these things that perpetuate imagery of dark entities is so that we give these living frequencies form, and we can literally manifest them into beingness. Yes, they can become real, but it doesn't mean that they're all real, and it certainly doesn't mean that they have authority over you or they can do anything to you. They can influence behaviors, they can influence your feelings and your thought processes and all of those things. But the moment you know what they are, the moment you see these energies for what they are, you can take authority over them. You can speak to them with your sovereign, authentic authority. As the eternal being you are. Okay, you can speak to that, and you can command it to be transmuted or returned to source. The most powerful thing to do with these energies is to transmute them with unconditional love. They are you and they are me. They are Mother Gaia. They are living frequencies. And when you heal those energies and you transmute them, you're changing the frequency of the entire planetary grid. So you're remembering us back to our origin frequency when you do that. And that is what I do in collective work. Sometimes I go into the astral and I work on subtle, very subtle layers of human consciousness in the astral realm. Sometimes I go to, like I said, sacred sites, obelisks, and these places, and I bring the frequency of remembrance. I bring the frequency of authentic authority, and I heal you. So, I'm going to stop right there for now. I might do another live today. Please let me know what you think. Let me know if you learned anything. And I offer energetic work now. I offer classes. Some things are donation based. Some things are, a flat rate. I do offer also classes on lost knowledge, teachings, metaphysical knowledge that has been lost for thousands of years. Some has been retained in the mystical schools, but some have not. And then I do teachings on alchemy, teachings on, again, energetic sessions, individual healing sessions. I've worked with shamans all over the planet. So if you're interested in any teachings or any classes, just contact me here on TikTok and we'll find a better mode of communication and we can set that up. So I absolutely appreciate any contribution, any donations. I typically take donations through PayPal though, because TikTok, man, they just rob you, man. They rob you blind. I've never used TikTok, but I've learned that earlier. But I do use PayPal for donations. So, and it really helps the collective work because it costs me my time, my energy. Again, I'm a business owner. I own and operate a small construction business. I'm a single father. I was thrown into this lifestyle and this work through happenstance, through just the blueprint of my journey. And it's been a very lonely and arduous journey until very recently Spirit began to bring me into a lot of realization that I'm not alone out there. So much love, guys, and peace out, and keep your frequency authentic. All right, love y'all. Now if I can figure out how to dip out, because I don't even know. I've never used TikTok. Power button.